Hello, this is Adam with Daily Grind Digital, and today we are going to go over the multi-column section in the DGD Crusade Shopify theme. So right here I have the multi-column section kind of laid out, and you can see that section here. And the thing to note in here is you have 4 different block types: a collection, product, image, and text. You can use any variation of those block types. You have up to 6 that you can add into the collection. They will affect your desktop layout especially, because as you can see here, you go 3 across. Once you get past 3, they'll expand the area. So for example, if I add another product in here, you can see we have 3 by 3, but if I remove that, then you kind of have this unique little layout of 3 on top, 2 on bottom. Or if we remove another one even, you have this 3 on top, 1 on bottom. So kind of some unique layouts there for you. If you get down to 2, those 2 are going to expand the whole row or there, or the whole area, the whole screen. And if you do 1, it's going to stretch the whole area. So you have a few different options. It's just a dynamic section, as everything is, and it'll adjust accordingly. So I kind of like the having 4 blocks or 5 blocks if it makes sense for the site, and you could not be excessive. I like the layout; it's kind of unique, and so the main thing is you should always be thinking, what does mobile look like? So this is what desktop looks like, but what does mobile look like? Well, mobile, you have 2 different options. So if we go into the section settings, so the multi-column settings, you have enable slider on mobile, or you can disable it. Now, if you disable the slider, it's just going to show, uh, you know, all in a row here. There is another thing you should be aware of, and that is if you have this only works if the mobile slider is disabled. But you have inside of each block, at the very bottom of each block setting, you have this mobile position. So you can determine the order in which you want the images or the blocks to show on mobile. It only works if you go into each individual block and you set a position. And obviously you can't set two blocks to be position 2. It's going to conflict with the logic. It's not going to work the way you want it to work. But the reason this is useful is, say for example, on desktop, you want these 2 larger images, or these 2 larger blocks, if you will, to you want these to be a particular product or image, but on mobile you would like those to show first. Well, if you go in and set these mobile positions, when you have the slider disabled, when you go to mobile, you can choose the order in which they show up on mobile. So that's just a feature to be aware of. But that this mobile position that is within each block does not work. We don't intend it to work. It does not work if the slider is enabled on mobile. So just be aware that it's actually not broke. That's the way that it is built to work. So um, with that being said, let's go ahead and go over some of the section settings. And so you have your alignment. That's just going to affect how wide this section will stretch when you go on full screen mode. So just to be aware, align wide is align full is going to be stretch wider than align wide, for example. So you can play with those settings, see what you like. To see the changes, typically you're going to have to go into full screen mode. You have your background color here. So do you want it to be black or whatever it is? I'm going to choose white for now, just for simplicity, and typically white is always what looks the cleanest in many cases. Padding top, so that is how much padding is going to come between the top of this section and the other. So for example, I can change that to small, and you can see that the padding decreased, and the same for the bottom. So that's just how much padding comes between the bottom there. You have remove margin bottom, which removes all the margin. So that's an option there. And then you have grid item size. Grid item size here, this affects desktop grid item size, and then you have a mobile grid item size. So you can adjust each without affecting the other. So if we want the apologies there. If you want that desktop grid item size to be super big for some reason, you have that option. And I'm going to go ahead and adjust those back down. But also, so if you go to mobile, let's go down here, you can adjust the mobile grid item size. So boom. I'll go ahead and largen those up. And that is the section settings. So the next thing to do is to go through the block settings. So right here, I've added one of each type, so we can go over one of each type at least. And I'm going to go over one block setting in depth, and then that way, if there's similar settings, which there are in other blocks, I won't have to spend so much time on those. I'll just brush over those quickly since we'll go over it one time really well. So you have your collection block here. You can see that it's a collection block by when you click into it. So it took the collection name, so you can't necessarily see like, hey, what type of block is this? So if you click into it, you can always see what the name of this block is. It's a collection block. Here you choose a collection, so I can change that if I want. I chose a long sleeve collection. Actually, let me note something here. So by default, it will pull, so you can see this image here. If you assign an image to the collection, it's going to show that image that you assigned to the collection by default. If there's no image assigned to the collection, it's going to pull the first image of the first product in the collection. So that's just something for you to note. You do have the option to replace the image. So that is kind of nice to have. So if I want to replace that image, I can. You do have a contain image option. Sometimes that is valuable to have, or you can not contain image. See how that image stretched the whole gap? And sometimes when you don't contain the image, being able to adjust the image position, oh, sorry, that's desktop. So you have image position desktop to adjust and image position mobile. So if I want to adjust that image right or left or top or bottom, you can do that depending on the image. Those settings do work, and every once in a while that can save you and make an image look even better just by being able to have those slight adjustments that you can make. I'm going to remove this image and just use the default collection image. I don't have to contain this image because it actually fits well. So you can see that actually doesn't do anything. So just keep in mind, it really depends on the image dimensions that you have. If I need some text contrast, you have that option to add some text contrast to make that text pop a little better. You also have your content position. So do you want it center? Do you want it aligned left? Do you want it aligned top left, bottom left? So we could do bottom left here, and boom, there you have it. You do have the option to add a subheading. So whatever you want to add there, you can see that pop up. And you have your subheading size. So do you want to make that subheading larger? You may not. So you have that ability. And you also have the ability to change the colors here. You have the ability to change the heading size, which the heading in this instance is it by default, and it pulls in the collection title, so long sleeve. But you can change that heading size if you want. So you can see how that got larger there. You can change the heading color. You can choose to show the collection description or not. So that text that's showing in the bottom there is the collection description. If you don't want that to show, you can uncheck that and you can get rid of it. You can add a button. So from where this is a collection, it's linked to the collection whether you add a button or not. But if you just want to have a button for appearance-wise or to indicate that, hey, this image is clickable, you can definitely do that. Arrow to your button. You can change your button size. So do you want it a little larger? Do you want it smaller? Do you want an outline on it? Do you want it to be a simple button, which is just text, or solid, which you already saw? You can make your button, if you don't like the square button, you can actually give it a radius, make it more pill-shaped or oval-shaped. That is in theme settings. There is a different video going over theme settings in depth because there's a lot of theme settings, and most of those settings are global. They'll affect everything throughout the entire website. So, for example, your primary, secondary, tertiary colors, your gradient, your heading sizes. So whenever we're looking at what these heading sizes are, all that's in theme settings. So be sure to check out that video if you're curious about how that works. And then, so we have that button text. Um, you have your text color, which affects the description. Text color that's pulled in from the collection. And then again, we went over that mobile position. So that is the settings of the collection block. That took a second, but hopefully these next ones will go faster. So the next one we have here is a product block. You can see that right here when we click into it. And I chose a product. Um, you have your image position, so sometimes that might help you to be able to adjust the image position. You have that desktop and mobile options there. So if I click uncontain the image, you can see that it is a little larger, but that actually still looks okay. What we do notice is that price tag, that price isn't super readable on this. Um, you do have the option to show the price or not. If you want to show that price, then you might want to change it to something that might be a little bit more legible there, or you can add more text contrast. So right here, we can always add some more text contrast there. Now it's a lot more readable. It just depends on uh, what you like. You have your content position here. So again, we already adjusted that. And another one that will change uh, how your um, how your alignment of the text and things show up. Ability to add a subheading, ability to change your heading size, heading color, ability to add some text in, the ability to add a button, and all those things that I showed in the previous option there. Then you have an image, which you have the ability to um, add whatever image you want, really. You can upload an image, and there you have it. You can change the image position just like everything else. Contain, add your contrast, choose the content position, add headings and things of that nature. You can add button text if you want. You do not have to add button text. So for example, if I add in just a link on its own, so I add a link for all products, this image is clickable. So you'd be fine there, and you have all your settings for your button sizes and things of that nature. So you can, add a button or not. Then you have your text area. For the text area, you actually do have to have a button to make the text area clickable. So you can come here and you can add a link, but I believe this is the only one in particular where if you add a link but you don't have the button text available, this image is not clickable. So we can add a button, and please note that you can add more than one button in certain blocks in the theme and certain sections in the theme. So typically buttons are always blocks, so we can add a second button if we want. So just be on the lookout for those. And then so you have that option, and of course you have your button style, your button color there, so you can change how those look. Arrows. External link is if someone clicks that button, it's going to open up a new window. So that's just something to be aware of. You have your background color here, so if you want to turn that white and get rid of that gray box, you can. If you want to set it to black, whatever you want to do, you have the ability to do that. The settings in here are very similar to the other blocks. Outside of it's more of a text area to maybe you want to highlight the fact that you have a promotion or make some type of statement. You have that option. And then you really just want to be aware of, well, how does this look on desktop and mobile? So for example, here we have this first product. So it's not looking that great on desktop. The title is broken, and it's just because the text is so large. So if I would go back up to this long sleeve, I might want to come in here and take this heading size down to an H3 for an example. Now that looks a lot better. So now we have to ask, well, how does it look on mobile? So let's go back down, and it looks good on mobile. So you just have to be aware of those things. And outside of that, you've now learned the multi-column section, and you have a better understanding of what all it offers. Hopefully you have some ideas of how you can use it, and you're one step closer to being able to use all the features in the DGD Crusade Shopify theme.